Starting us off like we always do at number 10, we have Venice, Italy. I just came back from this place while on my honeymoon, and honestly, it's one of the most beautiful places in the world. Venice has been known to be like the floating city, but it may not be floating too long. It might be called the sinking city or the sunk city. So we might have to say goodbye to those gondola rides, and that's because the city is currently sinking. The city has often been threatened by floods and tides pushing in. The city is sinking 1 to 2 millimeters per year. Since 2000, Venice experienced the worst flooding in history. Experts believe within 100 years the city will be underwater, and this is majorly due to the climate change. New York is next on this list at number 9. Scientists believe that sea levels would increase several feet over the next 50 years. Researchers claim the initial melting of the ice sheets will be one of the main causes for New York to flood. New York has a population of 8.5 million people, so that is a lot of people who would be affected by this. Millions of people will have to relocate their life. Take a look at this map. This is what New York would look like if sea levels rise by 20 feet. This is really scary. The whole coast of New York would be underwater. Also, New York is often hit with hurricanes. These hurricanes seem to get bigger and bigger, doing more and more damage and flooding parts of New York. Okay, number 8, San Francisco. San Francisco might not be around that long, and it could be because of many different reasons. San Francisco, which is in California, are affected by a lot of earthquakes. San Francisco is located on top of an active tectonic plate that form the San Andreas Fault. This fault line runs 1,200 kilometers through California. The San Andreas has not ruptured since about 1680, and a big earthquake from the fault is supposed to go off every 150 to 200 years, which means the San Andreas Fault is long overdue for a major earthquake. This earthquake could destroy the whole city and even the state. Number 7, let's talk about the cities located in one of the smallest countries in the world, and the country we're talking about is Nauru. Nauru used to be called Pleasant Island, but it has become a country with just over 10,000 residents living in it. It's located in Micronesia, northeast of Australia. A lot of people never heard of Nauru, and the thing is, people of the future, they may not know what it even was because it may not exist. Nauru is sinking and it's drying out. This is due to the accelerating effects of climate change. A lot of people in the country can't afford to move to another one, but this is becoming a very serious problem. That nation is concerned about massive cyclones that could easily wipe out the whole country. Moving into number 6, we have Detroit, Michigan, the Motor City. This was a city that used to be booming economy-wise, but now it looks like a ghost town. Most of the city has been abandoned, and this is due to the huge collapse of the auto industry that crashed the economy. Millions of people have moved away. The crime rates has become one of the highest in the states, making this a city no one wants to live in. Detroit back in 2013 filled the largest municipal bankruptcy in US history. With almost no desire to set up business in Detroit, there will be no way to employ yourself, meaning it's a matter of time when the city is just not on the map anymore. There's no point drawing in Michigan, Detroit. Number 5, Mexico City, Mexico. Mexico City has been facing a water crisis. When the Grand Canal was completed at the end of the 1800s, it was Mexico City's Brooklyn Bridge. This was a major breakthrough from engineers. This construction had the ability to move tens of thousands of gallons of wastewater per second, and it promised to solve the flooding and sewage problems that had plagued the city for centuries. Mexico City is located in the Valley of Mexico, surrounded by the mountains and volcanoes. This city has no natural drainage outlet for the water to flow down the mountains, making the city very vulnerable for flooding. That's why the Grand Canal was built, but it doesn't seem to be big enough. Mexico is slowly still flooding and could be underwater very soon. Alright, number 4 is Miami, Florida. Miami has been constantly flooding for hundreds of years. It is surrounded by water, the whole island. It's an island, it's just there's water all around it. It is predicted that very soon half the landmass will be underwater. It's easy for Miami to flood because it's actually very flat and it has a very weak foundation. The island is on limestone, and when limestone gets wet, it just dissolves. If climate change continues to be unchecked, the United States will be on path of self-destruction, and it might start with Miami. We all know President Donald Trump thinks global warming is a hoax, so it doesn't seem like anything will be done soon, like global warming wise. There's just not going to be any changes for the future. Number 3, we have Banjul, the Gambia. Banjul is the capital of Gambia, and it is a small West African country bordered by Senegal. Floods have made a major disaster affecting Gambia over the last last decade. The effects of this poses great concerns. Gambia is located in the low-lying coast, which means it could flood easily, and also the city doesn't have a lot that they can do to counter a flood. This is why Gambia is one of the world's most vulnerable countries. They are prone to effects of the sea level rising. Very soon the whole city would be underwater. Right now there are around 50,000 people living in the city that could be affected by this. People would have to move their whole lives to another part of Africa. Naples, Italy comes into this list at number 2. Naples has been a place experts believe that could be wiped out very soon, and this is because it is surrounded by very large active volcanoes. Active meaning it can go off at any time. Naples is famously known for Mount Vesuvius. There has been many reports from scientists that there is activities of volcanoes or rumbling. This isn't good news. Since the 1950s, there has been signs of the volcano being active. The last time this volcano went off was in 1944. When it went off, it destroyed villages and there was lava and smoke clouds everywhere. If Mount Vesuvius goes off, it could wipe out the city of Naples. And finally, number 1, we have Bangkok, Thailand. Now this is a very scary one, and experts are saying that the city could be underwater in the next 15 years thanks to the combination of sinking land and rising global sea levels. This is really scary. This means 10 million people will be left without homes. Thailand's National Reform Council issued a report warning that they have to take immediate precautions to avoid this devastation, and it might be costly. Most of the city right now is just 5 feet above the sea level, and the city is sinking at a rate of 2 centimeters a year. So by 2100, the city should be underwater, and it actually could be sooner than that. The land could be sinking faster and faster as time moves on, because the more land underwater, the more weight it causes, the more it just pulls it down.
Number 10. Port Royal, Jamaica. Port Royal in Jamaica used to be the most banger place on earth. It was once considered the world's best party town for pirates back in the 1600s. You know how much of a good time you have to be for pirates to collectively decide you're one of the best places to party? Pirates are maybe the best partiers of all time. However, God probably got all butthurt about this, because in June of 1692, a massive earthquake hit the area, followed by a huge tsunami which buried the whole city underwater. Around 3,000 people died, and the city has been left underwater to this day. This is definitely a huge bummer. It's considered an archaeological wonder, but I think we all need to pour one out for our fallen pirate brothers and sisters. We're just trying to have a colossal rager when the whole world came crashing down on them. I hope they're all up there in heaven, getting tanked and rinsing puke out their little funny mustaches. Number 9. The Gulf of Mexico shipwreck. I wouldn't want to be the captain of a boat. You have so much responsibility with all the people on board, and you don't even get to do the best things on a boat, which is take it easy and lay around the whole time. I especially wouldn't want to be the captain of a boat going through the Gulf of Mexico. There's over 2,000 shipwrecks in this area. Sailing through here is like your buddy dating someone crazy, even though you told them not to do it, and then big surprise, they burn down their house. Well, there's one shipwreck in particular that has everyone interested. It was discovered when Exxon was laying some pipe down in the Gulf. It's a ship that's estimated to be over 200 years old. The mystery about this old boat is that all attempts to do extensive research on the vessel have failed. Computers break down, robots stop working, people have begun to speculate that the boat is cursed and whatever is inside it needs to remain a secret. Ooh. Number 8. Faunus Heracleum. This city was once one of the most important ports in the Mediterranean. There must have been an insane amount of spice rolling through this area. I bet the whole city smelled like the candle section in Bed Bath & Beyond. It's unknown why this amazing port got sucked into the ocean, probably another earthquake, or maybe it was Godzilla climbing out of the sea and smashing it into the ocean. Either or is really possible. Over the years, a ton of deep sea excavations have happened in the area, and so much has been dug up. Giant statues, gold coins, lost hieroglyphs, they can all be found in this area. It seems that the city was a major hub for several different cultures to come through and make trade. It's a huge bummer to think about all the knowledge that was lost in the sinking of this city, and all the spices, man. Number 7. The Aegean Sea ruins. The Greeks have a crazy long history. It's full of war, politics, coups, betrayals, some magic dudes lying in the clouds somewhere. I think one of the craziest parts about Greek history is that everyone only wore sandals. I mean, in every movie about ancient Greece, every person is in sandals the whole movie. Alexander the Great is like, I'm taking over your country, and all the people are like, your toes are out, dude. It's so disrespectful. But something even crazier than fighting war in terrible footwear is the sunken city right off the coast of Delos. It's thought to be the ancient city of Canaan, plain where the Athenians defeated the Spartans. Archaeologists call it an underwater Pompeii since there's so much history that has been preserved in this city. This city has helped archaeologists learn so much more about the ancient Greeks. Number 6, Baia. We got another awesome place that ended up in a watery grave. Man, I guess that's why they built Las Vegas in the middle of the desert. There's no way water could suck away anyone's good time anybody was having there. Baia was a hedonistic playground where people would come to bang and party. It would even attract the rich and famous. People like Julius Caesar had vacation homes there and would come to visit constantly. This place was basically the Playboy Mansion of its day. There were statues and artwork of great legends like Achilles and Odysseus, but unfortunately the city was blasted by the Saracens in the 8th century. And no one was ever allowed to have fun there anymore. Huge bummer. By the time the 1500s rolled around, the city was abandoned, because what's the point of having a beachside town with no debauchery? And after centuries of volcanic activity, the city was pushed underwater. Now it's a dive site you can visit to see all the fun that was lost. Number 5, the Milky Sea. I know this one sounds super gross. The Milky Sea makes me think of a giant bowl of snot that you have to cross in order to complete some task in a video game. But this one is actually pretty cool. Popping up randomly at night, the Milky Sea is an effect caused by a ton of bioluminescent plankton in the water. This makes the sea look like it's glowing and gives off a milk effect. It kind of looks like a giant rave is going on underwater. This thing can be huge, sometimes as large as Connecticut. It's still unknown why the plankton group up like this. It could be for mating, or maybe they just like to hang out. But what is known that this has been happening for centuries, back before you could explain these things through science. So sailors thought it was all magic. That would have blown some dude's mind. The ocean is glowing. Quick, cut off your pinky to satisfy the gods. Number 4, India's underwater city. Another city lost to sea. We can assume that this one was another party town swallowed up to make sure people keep living that pleb life. Although I can't confirm whether or not this place was an endless fiesta, I can confirm that this city is old as hell. It was discovered off the coast of Dwarka, one of the coastal cities of India. After its carbon dating, it was estimated to be around 9,500 years old. If this city is indeed that old, it could mean that the reason it ended up underwater was the melting of the Ice Age, which happened around 10,000 years ago. This would mean that this is one of the oldest cities ever discovered. It would be 5,000 years older than the oldest Mesopotamian city ever discovered. The uncovering of the city was a major find, and it could unlock secrets as to where we came from and who our ancestors are. Number 3, the Bimini Road. The most famous underwater city of all time. It's said to have been the mecca of science and culture, and people from all over the world would come there to learn. Well, it's Atlantis, of course, the apparent lost city where Aquaman is king and pops out every now and again to help the Justice League with fish-related problems. Well, this sunken road off the coast of the Bimini Islands in the Bahamas is said to have led to the missing metropolis. It's made of giant carved pieces of limestone that are too precise to have been formed in nature, so they must have been man-made. Now, did they actually lead to a city? Well, I have no idea, but it's safe to say that there was some sort of structure built in this area out in the middle of the ocean, so who knows. Number 2, the Chinese Atlantis. Number 2, the Chinese Atlantis. North America isn't the only place with its own ancient sunken city underwater. China has a mystery city of its own. It was called Chichen, and honestly, everything there was going great. It wasn't a party city. It didn't need to be condemned by the gods. It wasn't Pompeii and it got hit with a natural disaster. It was actually just chilling in the open until 1959. What happened was the Chinese government wanted to build a new power dam, and in order to do so, they needed to sink a city. The bummer is that some of the structures in the city were over 1,300 years old. It was a piece of history that got sunk for a dam. The good news is that the city is under so much water that it has been preserved and now is a scuba diving hotspot. Number 1, Atlantis of Japan. Has no one ever thought of giving these places their own original names? Instead of calling everything that falls underwater Atlantis, I'm gonna drop my phone in a candlelight bath and call it Atlantis of my basement apartment. This joke is even funnier because I don't have a bathtub at my place. I would have to flood my stand-up shower. Definitely not as romantic. Well, this city apparently fell into the ocean 2,000 years ago off the coast of Yonaguni-jima after a massive earthquake hit. Imagine an earthquake hitting before science, and you think God is shaking the world because you didn't pray 18 times every day. Now this city sits at the bottom of the ocean. Some speculate that it's just rock formations, but there does seem to be a 25-meter tall pyramid at the site, so I don't think that's a natural rock formation. ocean. At number 10, we have an octopus nursery. 8-legged alien looking things with suction cups all over their arms and beaks for mouths. Octopus are creepy looking things, and to top it all off, they can camouflage like a Navy SEAL, and they are super smart. If these are the kind of things that make your skin crawl, then just running into one of these guys would probably freak you out. Well, on the underwater expedition at the Davidson Seamount, there was a rather shocking discovery. They had a remote probe that was on the ocean floor around 10,000 feet, and they came across which seemed to be an octopus that was next to not just one, not just two, but a group of 1,000 octopuses in a nursery. They were all there laying their eggs and using the heat from the volcanic vent to keep them warm. I would hate to be the guy who accidentally steps into that crack and then gets devoured by thousands of sticky arms. But if you're at 10,000 feet underwater, you probably are already screwed. At number 9, we have the Siberian lake monster. Of course, if we're doing a list of scary things that live underwater, we have to throw a giant mysterious sea monster on here. What separates the Siberian lake monster from other more popular guys that we have seen like Loch Ness and that kind of stuff is that underwater scans have actually picked this guy up. This thing is deep in Lake Labinkur, and some radar has shown that it looks like a 33-foot long creature is living there. Now this is probably just a skeleton, but if this thing is dead, it means that there was once a giant man-eating monster in this lake. I thought we were supposed to be safe in freshwater. They've nicknamed this thing the Devil, so you know he's a good time and loves company. So next time you go up to the cottage and you're swimming in the water and you feel safe, remember there might be a giant monster lurking underneath the water ready to turn you into a side dish. At number 8, we have the Blue Hole. Now there are several blue holes in the world. There's one in Belize, there's one in the Red Sea, there's a giant one in my heart that was left there from when Reboot ended on a cliffhanger. How are you going to end a show that so many people fell in love with on a cliffhanger? I will never trust again. Well, this one is between Cape Verde and the Caribbean islands. Scientists are really confused about this thing. It's a crack in the bottom of the ocean floor and is several thousand miles long. What's strange about this is there's no explanation of how this happened. It might have been tectonic plates moving around, but when this happened, the Earth will probably start to repair itself, and there's been no sign of this. My theory is this is where Godzilla goes to sleep at night. I mean, it seems like the most logical answer. It's either that or the gateway to hell. Like, come on guys, I'm doing real science work here. At number 7, we have the Yonaguni Complex. This was discovered by scuba divers in the 1980s. I think that's the scariest part about this one. Could you imagine going scuba diving back in the 80s? The technology back then must have been a tube going up to some guy who would blast fresh air down to you using a bicycle pump. I don't even think they had decompression sickness figured out back then. The chances of you coming up the bends was probably super high. Well, if it wasn't for a few divers in Japan who were willing to sacrifice it all to look at some cool stuff, we wouldn't know anything about the Yonaguni Complex. It's still a mystery as to what this thing is. It looks like some temples that might have existed thousands of years ago, but when the ice age decided to melt, it would have covered this entire area. This could be why an entire civilization got plunged underwater. Or the temple could have been on a cliff, and then when a massive earthquake hit, it knocked the temple into the water. But like everything in life, there are some haters who say this whole thing is just a natural rock formation. Some people just want to ruin everything. At number 6, we have Anacortes Sista Twista. One of the reasons why the underwater world is such a mystery is because we find things like this in there. Sure, there are beautiful things down there like bright fish and chubby marine mammals, but there's also the unknown, unidentified organisms like Anacortes Sista Twista, which should be the name of an 80s hair metal band. But what is this thing? Well, it's a protist. And what is a protist, you may ask? Well, it's an organism that doesn't belong to any animal group, fungus, or plant group. What does that mean? I really have no idea, you guys. I think it means it could be an alien. Some alien came down to Earth for a swim and then scraped its knee on some coral, and now we have alien creatures running around the ocean, probably waiting for you to pee so it can swim up your pee hole and then work its way into your brain. It's really the only logical answer. At number 5, we have the Bimini Road. How were the pyramids made? Was it aliens coming down to share their technology and secrets with us, or was it just thousands upon thousands of slaves who sacrificed their lives and their spines to build them? Well, we don't know, and we may never know, but the Bimini Road is another one of these mysteries. It's off the coast of the Bahamas, and it looks like it could have been a pathway that was placed perfectly with giant slabs of rock. Similar to the way the pyramids were made, it seems that these large slabs of rock were too large to be moved by man, and also like the pyramids, these giant slabs were also perfectly placed so well, so where does everyone's mind go when something like this happens? Well, magic or aliens. The logical answer is that this is a natural phenomenon of the water moving and hitting the rocks to make these formations, but people think that this was made using advanced technology from aliens and could have been the road to Atlantis. Honestly, I like the Atlantis theory much better. It's more fun. At number 4, we have colossal squid. Yeah, this thing is a big no thanks for me. So everyone always talks about how there might be sea monsters out there, but this thing actually exists. There's never been one caught alive, but several have washed onto shores dead, and they are massive. The largest one ever discovered was 45 feet long, and it was dead. So you know there was an even bigger one out there that killed this guy. They don't even have suckers on their tentacles, they have hooks. Let me say that again. This squid has 10 giant arms covered in hooks. This thing is straight out of a horror movie. Scientists aren't even sure what something this big eats. They think it probably feeds on whales or your deepest darkest fears. I wouldn't be surprised if the colossal squid works part-time as a gatekeeper for hell. It makes me think that the old Greek stories about the Kraken might have been real. At number 3, we have underwater circles. Giant formations of circles that are formed underwater and nobody knows how they got there. These mysteries were discovered off the coast of North Carolina, Florida, and Belize. Now what are they? Like many things on this list, myself and the entire scientific community have no idea. But here are some theories. Maybe they were formed naturally by either two things, water currents or some sort of animal mating ritual. Another idea is that these things were made by ancient civilizations before the Ice Age. All these things would have been above ground and might have been art left over by some old-timey tribes. And the third theory is that they look kind of like a bullseye, so it might be some sort of nuclear missile target, and if you hit it hard enough, the explosion will cause some sort of major natural disaster like an earthquake or tsunami, or if we're lucky, both. At number 2, we have Megalodon. If you have a fear of sharks, you're gonna love this one. Megalodon was a prehistoric shark that was even bigger than the giant hooked tentacle beast that was earlier on this list. If you've already forgotten about the colossal squid, it clocked in at around 45 feet long, where Megalodon was closer to 60 feet long. It was a 60-foot shark that could probably rip a blue whale in half in one bite. Well, maybe not that, but it was still a gargantuan creature with teeth the size of Brock Lesnar's fists. This thing wouldn't even chew you, it would just swallow you whole and then fart your skeleton out into the dark cold ocean. At number 1 on our list, we have Giant Eyeball. A mysterious giant eyeball washed onto the shore of a Florida beach back in October of 2012. I don't know any other kind of giant eyeball other than a mysterious one. There's no super common regular giant eyeball just lying around. But this is also Florida. This is the state where people smoke crack at weddings and kiss alligators on the lips, so maybe it's a little more common over there. Well, this giant eyeball was found by Gino Cavacci, and he didn't know what the hell to make of it, so he took it home and then stuck it in his freezer. Then he called the cops, and the cops came in and told him, "We don't do giant eyeballs on the beach. You have to call the wildlife people." And then he called the wildlife people, and they were like, "What the hell is that?" And he was like, "I don't know. I brought it to you guys to try and figure out what it is." And then some people were like, "Maybe it's a sea monster." And other people were like, "No, it's probably from a marlin." And I think in the end, no one really knew what the hell it was. But just so you know, there's giant eyeballs out there just laying around the beach sometime. Well everyone, that's our list. Thank you all so much for tuning in. As always, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and hit the little notification bell. Also, follow Most Amazing Top 10 on Instagram and Facebook. It's a great way to get to know myself and the other hosts a little bit better. Until next time, I've been Shade Arena, and remember, stay out of the water.